Underwriting support for this program is provided by the Eureka Teachers Association's School Board Liaison, Philip Middlemiss. Thank you.
Okay, I will go ahead and reconvene us into open session in this lovely lecture hall. And ask Board Clerk John Fullerton to report out from closed session.
On items C1, C2, and C3, there was no action taken.
Okay, we'll move to Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, and Board Member Randy Davis will lead us.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think that flag could be unfurled. Mr. Jordan, I think that flag could be unfurled.
I think it could. I'm not sure why it's like that, and then how it gets in the way of people that are trying to
Could
work
be.
the
Could be.
control pad.
It's okay.
Okay, we'll move down to item number G, which is a public hearing. So I will now open a public hearing to receive public comment on the determination of whether each pupil in the district has sufficient textbooks or instructional materials, or both, in each subject consistent with the content and cycles of the curriculum framework adopted by the State Board of Education. Do I have any public comment on this item? Okay. Hearing none, I will now close this public hearing. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
There are none.
Then we'll move down to information. Do we have any student representatives reports?
Probably over in
Superintendent's
the,
report. Pardon?
they're probably over in the barbecue.
Well,
Because that's FFA.
Superintendent's report.
I'd like to start off by just giving a brief summary of the Eureka High homecoming activities that happened, oh boy, over the course of about 7 or 8 days in the last week or two. I can say that it was absolutely a fabulous week. It was very fun-filled and spirit-filled. Each day had a variety of different activities. I can say that our very own Mickey Davis did do a chalk square, and it was absolutely gorgeous. So we were able to participate. In the homecoming activities, a few of us from our district office also went over and helped judge the different squares. Of course, it was international themed, so it's a little interesting to try to figure out why Las Vegas and Hollywood were international cities, but you know, they certainly have an international flavor to them, so it was kind of understandable. But nonetheless, I would say it was incredibly successful. And of course, we had our homecoming parade on Friday. We have a lot of floats and a lot of different people participate, and a whole bunch of Queen candidates. I think it was 30 something, or certainly well up there, which is a nice opportunity to see our high school students be able to participate. Then of course we had the bonfire, and then from there we went into a multitude of soccer events athletic events, including soccer, volleyball, and of course with football. I know I was able to go to the football game. We won easily at Kinleyville High School, and for my first time I got to participate in helping supervise the Eureka High dance, and actually learned how to do the breathalyzer. So that was certainly interesting.
All admin tasks.
But I do want to compliment not only our students, but all of our Eureka High staff, and particularly Ron Perry, who did a phenomenal job getting the homecoming organized and kids involved. So I just want to note that and thank him again for what a wonderful event. or a series of events. In addition to that, we were doing the PTSA on Saturday and had quite a few students that actually took the test. I know Valerie Gardner was telling me that a significant number of kids came out and did the PSAT test, not PTSA, PSAT test. I also want to let, and I think each one of the boards got an announcement. The fall concert will be held tomorrow in our auditorium starting at 7:15, and that will be the orchestra, concert choir, mixed ensemble, and limited edition. They'll all be performing. It's a wonderful event. It'll be the first time for some of these kids to actually be performing in the auditorium, and I know that they're really looking forward to that. Our district technology committee meeting was held today that's being facilitated by Marcel and by Rich. As you know, we have to update our technology plan for the district, and they're going to be leading our district through that process. We had a group of teachers and classified and administrative staff today over at Zane. They met for a couple hours and really looked at what is it that they need to do, starting with a vision for the district, and then they're going to look at doing 3 broad goals, but basically is how the question that they need to answer and look at for us for the next 5 years is how technology will help improve student learning and student achievement. So they're getting involved with that. The bike rodeo, family bike rodeo at Alice Burney was a great success. It was a beautiful day. It was very well attended. People got free bicycle helmets, bicycle safety checks, safe riding instruction. There were a lot of hands-on activities. It was open for all of the elementary schools, and my understanding it was very, very well represented according to Georgianne. The last thing is to remind people that tomorrow is the California Great Shakeout at 10:20. So I want everybody here to drop, cover, and hold on during that earthquake drill. And I even know our high school students are going to be participating in it. So all of our students will have a chance to practice once again what we need to do in this earthquake-prone state that we live in. And that's all I have to report. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move down to board members' reports. Wendy?
I was fortunate enough to be able to attend the reopening and talent night at the auditorium here at the high school. It was incredible. I had a wonderful time. Got to see a number of our school bands play. The jazz band played for a while, and why am I not remembering the name of our choral group? Limited Edition, thank you. They were incredible. I had a blast. I laughed hysterically for a good part of that time, and I also got to attend Rich's site council training, which was very informative. We spent a good deal of time there, and I want to thank Rich for putting that together, because I think a lot of the site council people had got a lot of good information out of that. It was well done, well put together. Got to catch the very end of the parade. I did better than I did last year, because I caught like about half of it. Homecoming parade, and it was awesome. And my son was dressed as a geek on Geek Day, and he makes the most incredible looking geek ever. And there are now pictures plastered of Geek Joshua on many Facebook accounts. His grandmother was quite shocked. So it was a fun homecoming week. The high school students had a good time.
Nothing to report.
Fran?
I also attended the meeting that Rich had for the school site members, and it was very, very well done, and I thought well attended. And then afterwards, we went immediately to the rededication of the auditorium. And again, that was a very, very fun evening, and I was really impressed with the talent of the students. And the principal's daughter is gorgeous and is very talented. The only thing, have you gotten the new curtains yet?
No,
Oh, okay.
they ordered.
That's the only thing they have that room really needs now, but it is gorgeous, and it was really a nice evening. I missed most of the homecoming except those 2 events because I was in Davis, but I did get home for the pancake breakfast. So I did attend the Boosters Pancake Breakfast. It was very well done, and I think they had a good crowd, although there weren't too many when I was there, but they said there's been a lot. I hope they made a lot of money, but they did very, very well. So.
Okay.
No report.
I also went to a number of homecoming events, from the pancake breakfast to game, and also went to the Hall of Fame induction ceremony, which, you know, is always kind of inspirational. Somebody always gives a speech that kind of a little teary-eyed. And it's just great that we can do that. I'm so thrilled that it started and the boosters are picked it up and are making it continue. And speaking of boosters, my understanding is they made about $14,000 during homecoming week in their fundraising activities, which is dynamite.
Is this the first year, though, that they've had the pancake breakfast?
No.
Or no, what is it, during the homecoming? The other thing you do.
The tri-tip? No.
The Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame.
Hall of
It's
Fame.
always,
No, this is number 4.
I know it's number 4, but it hasn't been during homecoming week.
No, it was during homecoming.
Always?
Yeah.
When it started, it wasn't, I don't think.
Maybe that first year.
Yeah, it wasn't. And so I really feel that that is really a good time to have us, because I think the attendance is a lot better.
It's unfortunate that I wasn't able to get all the funding that I have now in place to purchase the sound bathroom that's going to go up in the gym, but eventually we'll have that fixed, and the sound will be so much better than it currently is. It's a great place to have it in the gym. We want to continue to do that in the sound bath as well.
Yeah. The first time, I've been to all of them, except it wasn't big of a gym, and that is a good place to have a really appropriate place to have.
And I also attended the reopening of the Eureka High School auditorium, so I ditto Leanne and Fran's comments. But also I would like to issue a thank you to the ECS staff, because they did a remarkable amount of work in there, from the painting to the floors and getting, you know, that extra stuff done, and it really, really shows. I also attended the city-county committee meeting that I usually do, and just a note that it is interesting. We're working together, the schools and the county, but with some of the lawsuits that California School Boards Association and I think Access and the CTA are together against the Prop 98, and of course if the schools win, then the money is taken away from the county, and they're not too happy about that. It's really kind of unfortunate that it starts to pit government entities a little bit against one another, you know? But we're working well. The last thing I'd like to talk about is the task force, Safe Routes to Schools task force that I've been on, and I also was at the bike rodeo, which was a great success. So I won't restate what Leanne already talked about, but also I'd like to comment that the second thing that the task force is doing is undertaking a K-8 parent survey countywide. And it was in the paper this morning, I think in the Times Standard, but the results of these surveys will really provide valuable baseline data that is now becoming a requirement of these kinds of grants. So I know they've gone out to Eureka City Schools kids already, and Leanne and Nikki both got them copied. So the school district's been doing a great job of partnering their efforts with Safe Routes to Schools. But the best news I save for last, which is crossing guards has been an issue for a number of years. We've been talking about it for a long time. And now Humboldt County Public Works and Public Health wrote a grant. We have received $472,000 to develop a crossing guard program with specifically the 4 elementaries and Zane here in Humboldt, and then with the school district in South Fortuna Elementary District, which is hooray, and lots of Jan and Georgianne and Kathy have all been working hard You've been on that committee, so it's been a long time, and this is a real good step in the right direction. And that's all I have. So, we'll move down to public comment on non-agenda items. And I have 2 green sheets. Okay. Which one would like to go first?
I guess I will.
Okay, Mary Ann Hutchins.
Right, and where should I stand? It's a different setup here.
Okay, so I'm Marianne Hutchins, and I would like to address the tennis courts at the high school. And I'm speaking as a high school parent tonight, a nurse, and an avid tennis player. So my request is to get the tennis courts to a condition where they can be used for many years to come without requiring more work in the near future. So basically, just not a patch-up job. So tennis is a lifetime sport. I don't know if any of you currently play, have ever played, but it is a great sport. And actually, my 3 boys play with me, so we all play together. But it's a sport you can pick up at any stage. And we play, where I play in the indoor courts, there's people in their 70s, 80s, and even in their 90s playing, believe it or not. And they're really good to play against. So the courts here are just not for the students, they're actually for the whole community. And as I verified with the office, you just need that $10 deposit for a key. And the courts are also not just for the girls and the boys team, but for all the students. So, you know, there's a lot of kids that like to play sports and they may not be good enough to make the team, but what we want them is to be out there getting activity and that. So that's the goal. And having courts in an attractive and safe condition encourages them to play also. I did just want to mention too that often infrastructure changes need to be made to benefit community and youth, as for example, the safe routes to school. So like at Washington School, they've got that 1 mile walking loop around the school there. That's, you know, a change that was made. And so investing in the tennis courts benefits the community and the students, the children, youth. So I'm sure you're all aware that physical activity is a focus nationally, statewide, and locally. And I work with many people here locally that is their primary focus, is trying to increase the health of the community, of families, decrease overweight, obesity, you know. And by not fixing up the courts, that might just take away one resource for physical activity. Because not everybody likes to play football or soccer or roller skate, but they might like to play tennis maybe. So, and you know, children, in my work, you know, I work with, that's one of the emphasis of my work too. And children that are overweight and obese, there's a lot of issues that are facing them. There's the stigma, there's bullying, there's health problems, increased depression, there's a lot. So other benefits of physical activity are improved academic performance. They can think clearer. You know, when you've been running around, you can got a lot more oxygen going around your brain. There's improved emotional well-being, and reduced depression, reduced anxiety, especially important for our youth. Improved bone health. A lower risk for heart disease, and this is everybody, heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, some cancers, metabolic syndrome, and early death. So we want to prevent all those things. It can also help lower your blood pressure, helps with stress. I think we all need that. And it's aerobic activity, and actually tennis uses the skills of geometry and physics, so you know, a little bit of schoolwork goes in there too. And also, Alzheimer's is something to think about too. So according to the Healthy Brain Initiative with the CDC and the Alzheimer's Association, their research concluded that it improved physical activity, not just tennis, but physical activity in general, improved cognitive function. So, and I've heard that before. And I know my time is almost up here. So anyway, keeps us all alert and thinking playing tennis does. So anyway, we just need to keep in mind that the health of our youth as they age is very important, and tennis can help support their health. It's a great sport. You don't have to be great at the game to enjoy playing. It's just, you just play for the enjoyment. And so please consider financial commitments to resurfacing the tennis courts and whatever it takes to getting them up to a playable condition and for many years to come. So thank you very much. Oh, and then Alex, actually, forgot that part. He's just going to pass around to each of you just to keep. This is the 2008 Physical Activity Guidelines for Americans. It's a fact sheet. But on the back here, it's got a lot of the health benefits of physical activity for adults, older adults, and also children and adolescents. But it's a good little summary. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. So is that, Alex, were you going to talk, or?
Yes.
Okay.
As my mom said, my name is Alex Hutchins, and I am a 9th grader at Eureka High. I enjoy tennis, and I'm also an avid tennis player. And I hope to be on the boys' tennis team this spring. I hope that Eureka High tennis courts will be improved so that more people can enjoy playing tennis here. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Is that something we should add to our facilities?
Talk about it then.
I didn't hear what she said.
Is that something we should add to our facilities?
It will be a part of it.
Is it on there?
It's
Yes.
already on there.
Yes.
And I can't remember the name of the gentleman that owns the indoor tennis courts. Larry and Fred Moore, who's got a 9th grade daughter here. They worked with us towards the end of the summer, looked at the significant cracks there, did some patchwork there, and we've got some financial commitment from within the community to begin working on a more significant repair, probably somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000 per court to get them back up to a playable level. So maybe $50,000, depending on who you talk to though. Some people will say, no, with the shape that they're in, as we've discussed in previous meetings and all the way back to the replacement of the gym, remember, involved the tennis courts being moved. There's been much discussion about the necessity of just ripping the tennis courts up and starting over again because of the significant erosion that's occurred to the courts. But we're hoping we can get them to a reasonable place ahead of the change in the weather. If not, then early in the springtime. So we've been doing what we can, given the resources that we have to work with them, and the folks in the community have been really wonderful trying to help out.
Okay. Any other public comment? We'll move to the consent calendar. Any questions or concerns by board members? No? I need a motion to approve or accept the consent calendar.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the consent calendar. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries. We'll move to L19, discussion action, approval of 2011-12 revised budgets for single plans for student achievement for Eureka High School. We're supposed to have received.
This was brought forward again from a previous meeting. You may recall it was on a consent agenda and then pulled. We needed to make sure we had the proper composition of the school site council for approving the revised budget for Eureka High School. That has been done. In your packet is a copy of the budget, and in a separate handout in front of you are the required authorizations, the signatures of the school site council members. So at this time, we're requesting the school board approve the annual revision to the Eureka High School school plan budget.
Move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the revised 2011-2012 revised budget for single plan for student achievement for Eureka High School. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries. Okay, now we move to L20, general obligation bond refinancing process overview.
I'm going to turn this over to Paul to give a brief overview, and then he'll turn it over to our speaker for tonight.
Great, thank you. And I'll move through that very quickly, but tonight we have with us Mark Epstein, who is the Managing Director for California Financial Services. And Mark is going to take us through kind of the nuts and bolts of the bond refinancing process, bring us up to speed on what a current opportunity might look like for us, the pros and cons of going through all that. Some of you on the board, I think, are familiar with Mark and his company from when they were working with the district much earlier to put the original general obligation bonds in place. So with that being said, I'll turn it over to Mark.
Okay. It's nice to see everybody. For those of you who haven't met before, my name's Mark Epstein, and we've worked with your district since the year 2000. We helped you get about $40 million in state funding for modernization as part of your construction program, as well as both series of bonds. There were four bonds sold, 2 of each kind. One was a district-wide bond for the secondary schools, and the other was a bond, the boundaries of which were for the elementary schools within the district.
And Mark, I'm just going to jump in real quick. We have the PowerPoint is here. You also have a presentation in front of you. It might be more, if we want to come out here, would be one way. It's going to be pretty difficult to see what's behind you, but maybe Mark can just walk us through with the handouts. Do you think, Mark?
Yeah, I can do it with the handouts. I don't know. I have the audience. I don't know if you want the public to be able to see the other. I can do both, whatever you want.
Yeah.
They're working on getting, there we go.
Okay.
One more? Yeah.
Okay. So
Thank you.
tonight we're talking about refunding the general obligation bonds. As we discussed, the bonds, there are 4 series of bonds. There were 2 series in 2002, 2 series in 2005. Refunding is just a fancy way of saying refinancing. It's the municipal bond business's term for selling lower interest rate bonds to pay back.
Sorry. I was going to try to get this slide going for you.
To pay back higher interest rate bonds. In 2007, we came to you with this opportunity, but it disappeared relatively quickly, as well as there was some controversy as to what refunding bonds could do. And as a result, we had the intervening the intervening economic and banking episodes that made interest rates really not very attractive for the past 3.5 years. And in the since August of this year, really, interest rates have come down again for municipal borrowers, which has reopened the door to this question. There's also been clarification from the Attorney General's office as to what our options are, and we'll discuss. There's really only one thing you can do with these savings. We'll discuss what that is, but it's to the benefit of taxpayers. So we're going to do what's called an advance refunding. Your bonds can be paid off. The 2002 bonds can be retired on August 1st, 2012. That's our first date we can pay them off. We're going to put money, if we do this, if you decide to proceed, we create an escrow and we put money into that account. And it pays off the bonds in 2012 on our first date. The second series of bonds can be paid off in 2015. Similarly, money would be placed in an escrow. It would make the payments on the bonds and then pay them off on the first date. There's also something called a current refunding. Neither of your bonds qualify for that. What that is you can pay off the bonds immediately as soon as the new bonds close. The old bonds are retired and purchased, bought back, and eliminated. Both methods, from your auditor's perspective, mean that the old bonds are no longer an obligation of the taxpayers or of the district from the day we close. There'll never be two sets of bonds that you'll be responsible for, even if one set is still outstanding from 2002 or 2005. We're going to take care of the investors so they have no further claim on the district or on the taxpayers. We also borrow in these funds all the costs to pay for everything that it takes to refinance them. We'll talk a little bit about that. But the bonds, there's no expenses from the district. This does not ask the district to come out of pocket for any expenses, even if we get started and we can't finish because the bond markets don't cooperate, interest rates go up. There's no costs that come out of the general fund, capital facility accounts, the old bonds. All the expenses will be in the new bonds, so when we talk about what we're saving, that includes what we're spending to get the savings. So here's what we do. In short, we're funding bonds. For the new bondholders pay us for the new bonds. Money goes to the district. The district gives the money to the escrow bank. The escrow bank pays the old bondholders, and that's all the old bondholders get from that point forward is what the escrow bank is holding for them. And now the district pays the new bondholders. And that comes from the property taxes that are levied by the county. So if we go to the next one, here's where we are with the outstanding bonds. The district-wide bonds were sold in 2 series. Every taxpayer in the district pays taxes on these bonds. Both were sold with bond insurance at the time. The bond insurance's rating declined 3 times since we sold them, but that was not the district's risk, that was an investor risk. We funded projects at the middle schools and high school. The rates varied in 2002 from 3% to 5.72%. The 2004 were 3.5%, or actually 2005 bonds were 3.5% to 6%. Prepayment dates are 10 years from the date of sale. The 2012 bonds have a prepayment premium of 1%, which investors get. The 2015 have no prepayment premium. And that was just what we could get from the investors at the time without paying a higher rate. Final maturities, 2002 bonds will go away, as will their tax in 2027. The 2005 bonds will go away in 2043. It's a little different on the SFID. They were sold 2 series. Taxpayers only within the elementary boundaries, the attendance boundaries of your elementary schools. We created a special district to make that happen. Both were sold with bond insurance, elementary projects. Interest rates are a little bit different from the 2004 bonds, 3 to 6%. Prepayment dates are the same. Final maturity on the SFID bonds was 2036, which was 7 years sooner. The reason why that was is we had more growth in AV in that district between 2002 and 2005 than we had originally projected. We expected it would grow slower, and it grew comparably. So if you look at tax rates, we have been underneath our tax rate pledge the entire time. The yellow bar represents what we projected. The yellow and blue bars are the same through 2005 because that's our last date of projection. You can see in 2006, 7, 8, and 9, the assessed value in the district grew a lot higher than the 3% that we were projecting. And what assessed value isn't market value, it's what the property is originally purchased for, plus an annual adjustment no greater than 2% under Prop 13. So a lot of this value comes from people who've held homes for a long time, selling them to new people, and in the transfer from the old owner to the new owner, the assessed value goes up because the new sale price is higher. And when we looked at this in 2005, there were almost 10%, was my recollection, of parcels within the district that were held at a value of less than $25,000. So there's a lot of parcels held for a long time. And what we think we saw during that era is during the housing boom, it wasn't new construction like it is in a lot of California. It was people selling homes who'd had homes a long time. And you can see in the last 2 years, we're underneath our projection. It's really slowed. And so, we're looking at growth that's under 1% in both of the last 2 years. And our original projection was based on 3% for the remaining term. Prop 13 gives 2% automatically when things are normal. So we need 2% plus just 1% more. The SFID bonds, we're a little closer. When you look at the difference between the blue line and the red line, what we told taxpayers the tax would be and what the tax is, we're a lot closer, a few more bad years, that may tip us over our original estimate. It was only an estimate, it was a projection that we needed to use a reasonable basis for making. But of the two, we have a lot more room before slow growth in assessed value impacts that tax rate pledge. Part of why that happened is we did shorten the term. It gets paid off 6 years, 7 years sooner. So, it was a trade-off, less interest, a little bit more risk at the time. I don't think anyone anticipated that the growth rate could be negative 0.04 this year. So we just have to see what the future brings, but we've got a nice head start because a lot of the good years occurred first. So refunding savings are pretty simple. It's just like on your own mortgage. It's what your old payments were compared to what your new payments will be. And that includes all the costs. It's like getting a no points, no cost mortgage refinance. Everything is included in the loan, so you don't have to figure separately what you've paid to do the refinancing. It's calculated annually and cumulatively. And what we do in order to avoid distortions, which we don't do in home loans, but we do in my world, is we turn everything into $2010. So we say it's $1.5 million in total dollars, but if we looked at what it would be today, if we took all our savings in 1 year, it's $900,000. And we do that because it prevents distortions. If I put all your savings in the final year, I can make them look much more enticing than they really are. So it's to keep everyone honest, and that's why we use the present value idea of keeping everything in 2011 dollars, or if we did this in 2012, $2012. And then we look at every single bond maturity. So we won't refinance anything that doesn't save money. So in this case, we're not going to under market conditions as of October 4th, the 2013 maturity made no sense, so we didn't refinance it. There's a very big maturity in the SFID that's on the edge of not making sense, which today doesn't make sense. So we're only going to refinance what saves taxpayer money. If refinancing an extra maturity doesn't add a dollar, then we're not going to do it. And we're going to have to wait till the last minute to decide what's in and what's out. And there'll be targets that I talk about. So our funding savings are allocated as follows. The tax bills are already out. You might have already received them. We can't do anything about 2012 and 2013 right now, but as of next August, the new rolls will be set, and anything we're able to do between now and then will appear on next year's tax bill and on each subsequent tax bill. So that'll be the first year that the savings can materialize if the market cooperates and the board decides to proceed. We can start with the 2012-13 tax year to pass savings through to taxpayers. Taxpayers within the elementary attendance boundary will receive savings on both sets of bonds because they pay on both sets. Taxpayers within feeder districts that send children to the secondary schools will receive only the tax savings on the bond that they pay, which is the district-wide bond. And the thing that got clarified from 2007 is, for a while, people were using savings to complete projects. They would take the savings and put it into the project fund of the bonds and use it to complete projects, and the Attorney General has said, you can't do that. And although that doesn't have the force of law, because it is not a judge's ruling and it's not a piece of legislation, in my world it has the force of fear, which nobody wants to do it anymore. So we're all done. All savings go to taxpayers. That's how this works now. Okay, as of October 4th, the 2002 district-wide and SFID bonds can be partially refunded for significant debt service savings. The 2005 bonds cannot. The SFID savings are less robust than the district-wide bonds. They're much more likely, if things deteriorate, to not be done at all. They're very close now. The 2005 bonds cannot be refinanced now, but maybe in the future. The issue there is we're building this escrow that we're putting money in that will make the payments on the bonds next year and then August pay off all the principal. We're losing money on our investment. We're getting an investment that pays 0.75% for a year while your bonds are paying 5%. So we're losing 4% while our money sits in that escrow. The more years it sits in the escrow, the more we lose. So the 2015 prepayment date is making it very hard to save money on the 2005 bonds. It's not the interest rates, it's the investment rates. So those bonds will be out there for us to, if investment rates improve, then they may be possible. If not, we'll be on the watch for those over the next few years as we get closer, as we are now within a year or so. There's still a chance to come back and do them, but that's what's holding us up. The interest rates are actually very attractive compared to the 2005 bond rates. We just can't get an investment that, and you'll see when I show you how much we're spending on the portfolio, the amount that we're borrowing to make up for the investment return. As interest rates rise and fall, specific bond maturities, as well as the potential to even to do the 2005 bonds or any bonds at all, will be a moving target. We may find that we can't do it at all. We may find it gets better. End of August, we were 50% better than we are now. We had $1.5 million worth of savings on today's dollars. We're now under $1 million. So this moves around, and we'll have a target. But we may go on a market watch waiting for the right moment into 2012. And by the way, as we do that, the losses in the investment portfolio shrink, so it works to our advantage. As we wait, we get compounded benefits. So this is what the old debt service is, the 2 bars stacked. The new debt service is the blue part. The savings are the white part. And you can see we're saving $86,000 a year. $1,109,000 total for the district-wide bond, $865,000 in today's dollars. We're refunding $16,770,000 worth of bonds, which is it's about 70% of what we issued in 2002. You can see the escrow cost, $17,791,000. That $1.2 million is our investment loss, having to buy an investment and let it sit. So that's what's really making this complicated for us now. Issuance cost of $151,000, underwriter's discount, which is the commission to sell the bonds, $123,000. The prepayment premium is $167,000. All of that's factored into the savings, but we like to look at those things. If the district and its taxpayers are not saving more than they're paying, then we don't like the deal. So you can see by these bars that the savings is already slimmer, saving only $11,000 a year, which is $140,000 or $117,000 in today's dollar savings. These savings are about $360,000 at the end of August, so they've come down quite a bit. You can see again the portfolio cost is taking away $300,000 of our savings. Cost of issuance are less because we're treating this as an add-on. Most of the cost of issuance are loaded into the district-wide. This one will be the tail. The district-wide is the dog. This is the smaller piece. It pays to do them together if you can, because there's economies with the rating agencies, the bond council, me, all sorts of parties. If we can do them together, we'll add this for a lot less than doing the two separately. So here's what we're looking at as minimum guidelines when we do these, and we try to be very conservative. Refunding bonds have to save money every year. We're not going to do this unless every year taxpayers are better off. Refunding bonds will result in a minimum savings of 3% of what we're refunding. And that's a long-standing industry standard. I can't really tell you who is the magician who came up with that number in the 80s, but that's sort of become the gold standard of minimum. And we always want to do better than that, but there needs to be a practical minimum so that we have a target to work with if we end up being on hold. The savings will exceed the cost of issuance and financing expenses, excluding bond insurance. I don't know that we'll use bond insurance, but the bond insurance, the point of it is that when we use the bond insurance, we get a better interest rate from investors than if we don't. So it goes into the interest cost question. We'll only use it if it reduces, after we've paid the premium, our rates have gone down more than what we paid to get the insurer to participate as a guarantor. There's only one insurance company left in America that we can even conceivably think of using. The rest of them are worse rated than you are. So we'll be talking to Assured Guarantee. They're a AA company. It's possible we'll use them. Okay, the additional refunded bond maturities that individually save less than 3% will be included in the refinancing, provided that each additional maturity increases savings. So we're going to have to meet a 3% standard. If there's some maturities that are 2.5 or 2, we're going to allow them to join in if we do this, because we're not coming back to do it again. What's going to be left is going to be too little. So we're going to, as long as we can meet the 3% target, anything that reduces taxpayers' payments more, we'll include it in. And what the alternative, which the board could direct us to do, is each of them has to separately meet the 3% test. The concern with that is that it will leave a small number of maturities done that are not refinanced, that as a practical matter we'll never do. So, and that means, because the cost of issuance to do $3 million that we left out will never make it economic. So the 3% big target, and then a positive target for anything that is individually saving money. Okay, funding bonds require favorable market conditions, and we need 90 to 120 days after the board decides that it would like to proceed if it does. The district exposure to, if the market should go bad, will be limited as follows. All members of the financing team work on a contingent basis. If this doesn't happen, we don't get paid. That's how our business works, and everybody understands that. We're not asking you to take a risk of our time. If we put time into this and it doesn't happen, then that's just something we chose to do, and we do it all the time. It's part of doing business. Costs incurred by the financing team shall be reimbursable only from refunding proceeds if there is a successful sale. So if we advance costs on your behalf, it's on us unless you close. We're not going to ask you to be at risk for those either. But we're not going to go to the rating agencies and incur those costs till we're pretty sure that puts us in the right mindset for taking care of you. And the only thing we're asking you to be at risk for is the staff time. Because if we could take up a fair amount of Paul's time, Ann's time, trying to pull this all together, and in the end we could say we did our best, but interest rates didn't cooperate. We're in the middle of a presidential election. We got European debt crisis. We got budget issues. We've got all sorts of things that are outside all of our control. And at the end of the day, we can try and succeed or try and fail, but it won't be because of us. It'll be exogenous, circumstances that we just are not possible for us to control. So what we're really asking the board as part of its consideration in taking the risk of proceeding is that the staff time we're asking you for could potentially be for naught if we can't get this done in a market environment where it makes sense. If you decide that you'd like to go forward with this, if it makes sense to try to do this, we would need you to direct staff and us to coordinate the preparation of the legal documents. The documents that those of you who were on the board in 2005, it's a bond resolution, a purchase contract, an official statement, a bond indenture, and then we could shoot to try to do this in early December so that we never sell bonds in December. It's a terrible month to sell bonds. It always is. But January is usually a good month, so if we could try to get ourselves positioned to be ready to go after the first of the year, I think that's the best reasonable case scenario. And we just want you, if not tonight, prior to that meeting in December, to give us direction as to what issues you'd like to have addressed at that time, concerns that you'd like to have fleshed out and made available to you either in a presentation or in written form from the staff or the team. So that pretty much concludes the whole thing. I mean, it amounts to, since the time we started talking about this, we're talking between, in gross dollars, between between $1.25 or $1 million and $2 million of savings that would essentially be investors losing out in favor of taxpayers. And that's what this is really all about. And how much of it'll be is just something we'll have to put ourselves in a position to know by preparing.
Questions from the board?
When you speak about time that will be required of staff, and we talked about Paul and Ann, I need some idea of what that is. Will we need to hire extra staff to support them to pull this off? Is this going to be a half-time job to do during this short period of time?
Here's my best estimate. The official statement, which is the offering circular, which has all the information about your district, that has a lot of information that only you possess. Information about the status of your contracts, specific resumes and descriptions of staff, the board, the enrollment projections, all these things that may not exist in a current form. some of which do exist and are part of your financials. That information is about 3 to 5 hours of staff time if things are available that would be required. Then we'll do a rating agency presentation to get you a good rating, which we'll need whether we use insurance or not. That's probably 6 to 8 hours of the superintendent's time, and probably 20 hours, 12 to 20 hours of the CBO's time. That's about the extent of it.
Thank you.
Public comment? Okay, I bring it back to the board. What do you want to do?
You're a minute person, Joe.
We're looking at page 12, really, is the way if I understand this. It's direct, tonight, redirect staff and see if that's to coordinate the preparation of legal documentation, what you just said, correct?
Correct.
So when do the new bonds mature? I'm sorry, when do the new bonds mature, if we do that? 20,
Most often they will have exactly the same maturity. You know, we will not be shortening them, which we've done in the past because savings is fairly tight. Unless we start to feel like the SFID bonds have some sort of, we have a concern about an ongoing tax rate, we have the option of extending them for the purpose of smoothing out the tax rate if we choose. That'll be something that we'd bring back to the board and make you aware of before we did it. What we're proposing, the traditional is, everything stays the same. We don't extend the maturity, we don't extend payment dates, everything ends the same. All we do is change the rates.
thank you.
So can the motion be just what it says right here?
Are you on page 12?
Okay.
You recommend, I believe, the 3% target?
Yes.
And I'm thinking of the latitude of what do we have? Is it a trigger thing when you see that you can achieve the 3%? That's when you pull the trigger on this?
Well, let me say that the question of the target will not be final until we come to you in December. But if you gave us a 3% target then staff would then be directed by you to proceed with the refinancing so long as the 3% is possible. So when we would come to Paul and to Leanne and say, savings is 3.5%, we should be thinking, or 3.25%. We usually won't go in at 3 because it's kind of scary to be on the edge like that. Okay. We're at about 3.25%, 3.5%. Let's get ready to go. And then we'll position ourselves in the market and we'll wait for the day and we'll pick one. And on that day, we'll all get together the afternoon before, talk about where we think interest rates are, agree to try it at the interest rates that get us 3+. And if we can't do it, the deal stops and we start all over and wait for another day. If we can, the following morning by 11 a.m., if it's all sold, we're done. That 3+, whatever the number is what we'll have. So okay. We can't possibly proceed without it.
That's what I needed.
I'd like to hear from Paul.
I guess a couple angles on this. First of all, it will be an interesting process, so I look forward to it from the educational side of things, if you will. I appreciate the questions about how much time it will take, because I have been concerned about that as well, and Mark and I have had some conversations in that regard. You know, when that 20 hours or so would come into play would be an issue, but I certainly think that we can work around that. I think it's a prudent thing to do, and whether we are able to pull the trigger in the next 120 days or not, I think at least we would have the mechanism in place, and even if it happened a couple years down the road, to be able to jump at it when the opportunity was there. And at the end of the day, the ability to save the taxpayers that kind of money, I think, makes a lot of sense. So.
We could use it.
Yeah. Well, we're stewards of the public trust.
Yes, right.
Without doing this, it would be kind of crazy. If you have the target and you're waiting for the trigger, I would move for whatever it is we're moving for here. All right.
Direct.
To direct the direct staff to coordinate the preparation of legal documentation including a bond resolution, bond indenture, official statement, and bond purchase contract to be agendized for a meeting in early December.
And do we need the rest?
And provide direction as to any additional information or concerns that should be addressed at the time that the resolution is being considered.
I second.
We already have a second. Okay, John second.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
You can third it.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's been moved and seconded to do all of what Andy just said. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mark. We'll look forward to seeing you again.
You will in December.
And now we move down to discussion, M21.
Open the other door.
Earthquake drill.
Marcel.
It's a heck of a ringtone.
That's our alarm.
He wasn't supposed to leave.
Apparently not.
He
We
didn't
forgot.
sit through the whole meeting.
Yeah, that's what we do. If any of you guys leave early, that's gonna happen.
Okay. Agenda discussion for facility workshop on November 5th, 2011.
So what we've brought for part of the discussion, or for the discussion tonight, is a draft agenda for our November 5th facility meeting. And what we would like to do is ask the board to discuss that and make sure that staff is moving in the right direction for the conversation that we need to have on the November 5th special board meeting. In addition, to make sure that staff brings the materials and the information that the board needs as a part of an agenda or workshop. So it is for our ongoing facility plannings. There's a variety of different things that we need to look at, anywhere from the actual physical pieces that we need to discuss, and that would be under our district-wide facility maintenance. Then we'll look at specific campuses, as noted on the agenda. Those will be interesting conversations. It really is to look at where do we want to go in this district with our facilities. We've had lots of conversations about Jacobs and Lincoln, and we need to continue those and maybe get some resolution and direction on where we want to go. Elementary expansion options, as we've talked in several meetings, we are very full K5, K6 right now. There are times when Cheryl Smith will come into my office and say, Leanne, we have one opening at this grade level. And so far, it's worked out, but we really need to look at what is our capacity and what is our current enrollment, and look at what options might be available to increase our enrollment at the elementary, or at least increase the options that we have available, or to look at what other options that we have. And then moving on and looking at the Winship campus, and which is, and they all kind of go together, but what is it that we want to do long-term with our Winship campus? We put some short-term plans into place by moving the alternative programs there, including adult ed and Zoe Barnum and some of the other programs, but we knew at the time that that was sort of a short-term commitment, and it's time to take another look at them.
So we would discuss
All of these
interested in
things.
all of this.
Yes, indeed.
Under the elementary expansion options, I would be interested in knowing how many students we have at Zane, how many sixth graders do we have in all the different, for the 4 elementary schools, and also what was the total number of 6th through 8th grade students that we had at Winship at that one time.
And one of the things that we will be bringing forward is when we've talked, when staff is meant to discuss that, is that we will have facility maps for each, and it'll show you what are the current programs in each of the classrooms. It'll look at capacity, and then we can get you some background information, which is what I hear you looking
I
at.
figured that would, when I looked this over, I figured you'd have all of those kinds of things, but these were some numbers I thought maybe you might not have, And I would just
We will
like-
now have them for sure.
Yeah. And I would
Including,
just like
if
to-
we can, some projected enrollment from our feeder districts.
Right, yes.
So that we need those as well, especially when we're looking at 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is then the capacity of Winship for 6th, 7th, and 8th. Current 6th graders, and then current enrollment at Zane. And then we'll also look at
Right, at the,
feeder.
what we have available in the way of classrooms.
Yeah,
that
and
sort
that'll
of
be-
thing, and that would be in the,
In the maps.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I really wanted to know how many, what was the top amount we had when we had the 6th graders?
So our
at
peak
Winship?
enrollment when we were 2 middle schools?
Yeah,
Okay.
and we had 6th grade, because we didn't have 6th grade at Zane, did we?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, we have,
okay.
okay, so peak
All right,
enrollment at both
so
facilities.
what-
Okay.
In fact, it would be good to know how many, both of them.
Yeah.
What was the total of
Yeah.
six through eight,
Yeah.
6, 7, and 8 at
Okay.
both schools.
And where will that need to be held?
For
TBD.
cafeteria at Eureka High School.
The meeting will be in the cafeteria?
Yes.
At the high school?
Mhm.
Okay.
There's a lot that's covered on this agenda,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe I missed something, and I'm trying to go back in my mind about the conversation that we already had, but I was under the impression that this meeting was going to be more of a workshop than an itemized agenda. And there's a lot that's on here, but it limits us to discussing just what's on here. And I had asked for a workshop type scenario where we can, and we're pretty lenient here, and we converse with the audience probably more than we should, but if we're having a board meeting, there is no input from, other than in a more structured manner than I had in mind. So this might work, but I was thinking more of a workshop than an agenda.
Okay, remember that the Brown Act insists that we must notice the public on what we're going to talk about. So we can't have just like this open, I mean, maybe I'm taking it too far, I'm not understanding it. But it can't be so broad, because that's not.
Well, facilities in general covers everything, but I guess that's what I'm saying, is if it isn't just facilities and you're itemizing them on an agenda, then those are the topics that you can talk about. So if there's something that has to do with facilities, like tennis courts, they're not on here. So I'm just wondering if we're limited, if just.
On the district-wide facility
Yeah.
maintenance project meeting.
And let me clarify what staff is preparing for that each site will come with what the facility needs are, all the way from, Alice Burney to Eureka High School. And so what staff is preparing is that, let's say we pick Alice Burney, that these are the facility needs for Alice Burney. And then there'll be a little bit of prioritizing, and then, so it could be removing portable, I'm just, imagining, or it could be, at Eureka High School, it could include the tennis courts, it could include the track, it could include the roofs, it could include any other kind of facility projects that have been discussed at the high school, including, relooking at where the door to the library is. So those will come site by site on what we believe from our staff's recommendation on what facility needs are that the board needs to consider and discuss.
I would tend to agree with Wendy. I would like to see a way to open it a little wider. One of the things we all commented upon when we walked in, and I don't know if it'll come as a facilities recommendation from staff, lighting outside to park out there at night is dangerous.
And it will be over in the other parking lot too, both of them.
Okay.
Right, well, and it's a playground, not a parking lot.
Right.
And so some of those issues have to come up, but I don't want to get too strapped down to the agenda.
Right.
I don't know if we can discuss Windsor and what's going on there in this framework.
Okay. Your lighting is, to me, a facility project need.
Yeah.
Right.
The first topic is pretty for a
It actually
need
is
or
kind of
a
broad.
need that you see.
Well, but
However,
Leanne's saying
It's extremely broad.
what they bring from staff is what we'll discuss, is the way read that.
Well, what we were hoping is to provide information, and if the board wants information on lighting, then that would be part of it. But it's
Well, C1 is pretty broad, and it might take a long time. And there might be some people that if they're discuss C2 Jacobs. Maybe we can move Jacobs up front first. Those people have their input and then
And the only reason at agenda review I suggested putting that one up first was because it would discuss the needs of some of these sites that were coming later. But
Right.
I'm fine, whichever way you want to do it.
Yeah, but we would be discussing Jacobs.
Probably not.
right, right. Yeah, and that's fine. So to move Jacobs up to the first.
The other issue is this is 4 hours, and if we do this wide open, some things are not going to get decided, and there are some things like Lincoln, that issue needs to be decided. Jacobs, that issue needs to be reaffirmed or decided.
Our elementary issues need to be.
Well, except from, now, the elementary expansion options, my concern is, well, it does say options.
Right.
And those bullets are just there, I see as to be helpful, because there are more options than what are listed here, and I think we want to be able to encourage those options. And I don't see us making a decision on that day.
What I think staff is hoping is further direction.
Because, well, I will admit, this particular topic seems to me to include what the future of Winship is. And possibly even the future of expansion plans for the district, period. Because we are tight at the elementary, and we are seeing babies everywhere. And so, I would hope that this would just be the beginning of putting maybe a plan together to do some town hall meetings.
Right,
and be out in
absolutely.
schools,
Yep.
and getting parents involved in this particular topic. But we can have another facility workshop and put Winsler on there. I mean, how many topics do you,
Wait a second. So what you just said is putting together some town hall type meetings on the school sites to do what after?
to talk about the elementary expansion options.
But you're saying that some of these things need to be decided on.
No, I'm not on that particular one.
So there's some topics that
Some
you think,
topics.
there's some things that need
That are time sensitive.
action taken
Yeah.
during this meeting.
Well, it's not going to be at this meeting because
This
this
is
is discussion only. But it could be Jacobs. And the question is there, the staff stopped working on the lot line adjustments. So we need to have the discussion, is this where the board still, are we still in agreement? And then we need to say, staff,
Move forward.
with this.
Or
And
let go.
then it'll come back on the next November meeting, and then it'll be on a discussion action, and we'll make an official motion, vote, whatever we need.
That kind of format makes me, I worry about how we're going to get out and get the public involved in the process. And an agenda's item, we had talked about those types of town hall meetings or workshops, or come talk about your feelings about that school site or this school site, and in this type of format, it doesn't happen well enough.
I'm wondering if part of this is the definition of workshop, and we're not quite, this is semantics.
Well, I think this is an outline that we need to do first. Take this, it has a lot of things here that we need to discuss, and then if we need to go into one other specific, we set up a workshop, another workshop or whatever, if we don't get enough information. We're not expecting people to come and, basically, I'm not, to come and say, this is what I want, this is what I want, this is what I want. I'm expecting them to come and listen to what the suggestions are so far, or what has been done so far, or hasn't been done so far, or what we've discussed, because a lot of people have forgotten some of this, that we, talked about this, that, or the other thing.
Usually, in the past, a workshop has been a workshop for the board. So it's the board talking about issues or concerns, and then saying, what are the next steps? What does the board want?
I'm using the wrong term there.
Okay.
If that's what
It's just what
the
it's been in the
definition of the
past.
workshop, that what I'm looking for more is like the town hall meetings where you can get input from the stakeholders in some very, I mean, maybe not about Jacob, some of these specifics, but definitely about, what do we do when the elementary schools are at their capacity? Do we move the sixth grade back? These type of questions aren't, I would like to figure out a way to get more public input on those topics than having the staff make a recommendation and having us sit here and talk about it with limited input and those that will speak out in a meeting like this.
I don't see that happening with the K-6, 7, 8 question. I see where we're coming up with options of where we want to go, and then town hall meetings could be done later when we've got more information than we have today.
John, what were you talking about, though, when you were talking about people coming regarding the Jacobs? I had the feeling that you were talking about input and discussion.
Jacobs, I could see decisions being made, or a consensus of the board to direct staff move forward on Jacobs and Lincoln and Saturday. But I think that the elementary and middle school or issue is something that I would see us brainstorming different ideas and then asking staff to come back later with more information on those ideas that we like better than the others.
But we've had Jacobs and Lincoln on a lot of agendas, and we've had a lot of input on both of those. We've had those on the agendas for a couple of years, especially the Jacobs. And so and we do have to make a decision pretty soon as to what we're going to do. So, and we've heard a lot from different people, basically the ones who want to keep the soccer fields.
So there's the people that are coming, there's a group that wants a lease on the soccer fields.
Yes.
And then the rest are those who are interested in what we're selling and if they can buy it.
Right.
Bottom line. So those are the folks who are hovering over the Jacobs issue that I believe John's probably talking about. If we can.
But I don't see this as the first and last meeting.
No, I don't either. I don't either, but I'm just saying that those people, if they come, are going to be the ones that have come before and want the same thing.
But I see the elementary expansion as
taking a little bit of time. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I see the only way you get that participation is to take it out to the sites, the school sites. I just think now you can go as casual as back to the old strategic planning thing where you put Post-it notes around the wall, but it's whatever format you want to use. And that's up to us. We can figure that out.
But I see us getting more information on what the elementary expansions are at this workshop first.
And that's kind of how I saw it, is we brought the information to you, and then from there, it would go to the community, and then from there, it would come back with more specific recommendations based on the initial conversation here.
Maybe there's a way to communicate that out to the public, because I would like to avoid, if possible, if that's the intention, that the potential for people going, oh, well, they just stuck it on an agenda, they're just going to take care of it, is especially in the elementary expansion options.
Well, I personally do not want to get into another one of those episodes with the committee that we had appointed at one time. And we made it very, very clear that this was a committee that was going to look into different, come up with suggestions and so forth and so on of where they would like to see us go and so forth and so on. And because we did not, they assumed that they were making the decisions and that we weren't. And when it came time to make the decisions, the board did not make the decisions. Some of them, maybe a few of them they did, that this committee thought was going to be the way it was going to be. And there's been some real hard feelings about that. And there still are people talking about it. If you read my word today.
So, and I don't know if this is doable, I'll look to probably Mickey, but to try to address, I think, Wendy, what I'm hearing from you, is there a way to separate out the agenda items where the ones like Jacobs and perhaps Lincoln, we need some direction or action, and then put the ones like the elementary expansion solely as discussion. And so we have maybe the discussion action section with those 2 or 3, and then another category that's just discussion, so at least then the public can look at it and go, we're not going to decide anything on these things, but we are going to have conversation about it, where we might want to decide some things on Jacobs, for example.
And if there's a way, and that's exactly,
So
I mean,
separate
just
it.
that information, if you can communicate that to the public,
Right.
communicate that to our sites, to our, all stakeholders, that this is the plan, rather than have it, it's just, when I see it spelled out like this on an agenda, I don't see, right off the bat, off the top of my head, when I look at it, I don't see two-way communication here on this piece of paper. It's not set up that way. So, and as you explain it, I go, oh, yeah, that will work, that makes sense. But that's not what the person just reading this agenda is going to see. They're going to see, oh, the board is going to do this, it's going to be done in the board's going to discuss and make a decision, and you're going to sit out there and watch. And it's not open for two-way communication or input, or, hey, you know what, I think that there's a good chance we should do this, and I'm going to tell the district that. I still, communication.
Well, and I guess I'm wondering, would it at least help
And yes,
clarify
it
it by separating out where C is discussion action,
It would be-
and this is where I need,
To
whether we can
those
do
that
that by
understand this
agenda,
agenda
or
and how it's set up, yes, that, right off the top, that would make a difference in how it's set up.
or does that make it then more problematic, because now we've separated them and we can't talk of as a whole? And so I mean, there's advantages and disadvantages to either.
In initial discussion about, I mean, does elementary expansion options really tell a member of the public what the discussion is going to be about? Maybe it needs to say something different. Should it maybe be a paragraph after it instead of the bullets? A little 3-sentence, 2-sentence, I'm asking you. You were there, maybe
Yeah, we don't usually get into this detail, and this is also being a draft. It's kind of, I think, I got the impression, set up to trigger.
Conversation.
It doesn't have to be this way, but these bullets are very unusual, but they're kind of there as a draft to remind, I think, to trigger the boards what has occurred already.
Well, and I like the bullets because they do bring up the issues. And and I want the public to see, oh, yes, I'm interested in that.
It's very open.
So that helps a lot. Your comment about a workshop, what is a workshop versus what is a
Town hall meeting.
town hall meeting. We had, at the beginning of this meeting, we had something else.
Public hearing.
Public hearing.
Study sessions.
Those are all slightly different, and it is in the semantics. I don't want to gloss over it. We're calling it a workshop, but do we want something slightly different? Do we want a study session? I
What's
don't
the
know.
difference between a study session and a
A
workshop?
study session is usually taking something, particularly like a budget, and we bring in a budget, and we're all sitting around a table, and usually the CBO would be working with us, explaining a specific topic. See, I still think workshop is a good word for this, to me. It's not
And we
really-
want a discussion action on it? I mean, we don't
usually
actions
do.
don't normally-
Right, okay.
I thought this was just the beginning.
I think we have to
And
leave it
then
discussion,
That's why it's
not
called
discussion
a
action.
design group.
I
That
agree.
would help.
And that's why number 6 is on there.
Yeah.
So
And I
that the
think-
board can plan for
I
study
agree.
sessions or
It's exactly the way I
open
think. We
forums or
can't do
public
discussion
forums.
action.
If I may, there are some folks out there that actually know about this meeting and would like
some opportunity to speak to the board. In particular, there was a discussion at the Citizens Oversight Committee about just some thoughts they may have that they might want to share, or some people in the community might want to share.
Is it outside of this?
No.
It's on some of these topics.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because every topic, it has the right for public to speak.
Right.
Now, you notice on a workshop like this, there is no public speaking, public comment on non-agenda items. It is only on the items as listed here.
In the structure then of this, and inviting that comment, will we direct the public to limit their comments to 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes,
Well,
presentations?
we only have 4 hours.
It's 3 minutes and 20 minutes per subject. Although we have been in a workshop in the past, we've been rather lenient. It's not like we've ever had 100 people here. The more people, the more, otherwise we're here all day, and we don't do that.
Okay, but the parameters of our meeting, starting at 9,
Right.
currently we're saying till 1.
Right.
If we, I don't know what's going to happen. The crystal ball is cloudy. And breaking for lunch and coming back, I don't know if any of that has to be agendized. That
No.
there's going to be a break, or we
There
just
has to be a
hang.
break somewhere.
Yeah.
But here's what
Dandy
can
isn't
happen.
agendized.
Now, John's asked that Jacobs be first, because he knows there's some specific people, so, and then they can leave. We can rearrange this on the day that we're there, depending upon who's in the audience. We can say, gee, if a topic starts to go longer, then we simply continue it to another meeting. We schedule another meeting. Down here where it says follow up and next steps, not only the board, but any member of the public can say, I would like to hear about this. And if it's a facility issue and they would like more information, and then it may be something that we simply direct them to Lori, and maybe, or a member of staff. Or it might be something that a board member may say, yeah, I want to hear more about that. And we put it on another agenda. So, I mean, it's flexible.
Good.
And it does not have a closing time, it just says 9 a.m.
There's no times off to the side here. We don't usually do that.
Okay.
Short of actually having, and maybe at a later time, a town hall meeting to address specific issues within this packet. When the agenda comes out, can it instead say workshop, facilities workshop instead of special meeting, or underneath, so it's identified as a workshop? That would give me peace of mind. I know, I just have these issues. And the other thing is, I feel that a lot of people are intimidated by the process, and if they want to make a comment or they want to interject or be part of the conversation, this venue is a little intimidating, especially if you make them get up out of their seat and walk over to the microphone, put down a green sheet and say, I want to talk. And a two-way communicating is easier if they're allowed to remain seated and just interject their comment, maybe with some sort of structure so it isn't just willy-nilly. But is that possible at a meeting with a specific agenda, with a specific format?
Well, we're in the cafeteria, so maybe just so it's not this. But it depends on how many people there are. We have in the past, pretty much, some people have just stood up in their seat, but if the more people there are, the more structured the meeting has to become, just simply from a facilitation standpoint. Even if we go out to schools, this is part of the discussion. Let's say we're doing a town hall meeting in a cafeteria at Alice Vernon. If it's packed, the odds are you're going to want to break it up and maybe have a different, they're going to work around this table or put their chairs around in circles and have a different administrator working with and board members, because otherwise it's just.
I guess that's what I'm asking though. It doesn't have to follow a specific format that we use for board meetings. If it's called a board, it's a special meeting, do we have, or is it a choice we make, that we say, you know what, we're not gonna make everybody turn in a green sheet, we're not gonna make everybody come to the
Doesn't
microphone.
have green
But
sheets
if
on
it is
this.
determined that it's too crowded, there's too much going on, and that's necessary, we can make, but is it possible?
Well, this doesn't have that on there. It doesn't have the green sheet part, because the green sheet
No,
part.
the green sheets, I wanna speak,
Public comment,
Yeah,
green sheets.
and that comes under public comment.
I don't even make, I mean, people tonight, if we're on this topic and I'm gonna turn it over, they don't fill out a green sheet before they talk.
No,
They just-
never have.
Usually on agendized item, unless it's 50 people down the thing who wanna talk, and then we do the green sheet simply because it's tough.
Question, and possibly Philip can help us. Is there a portable microphone system that can be used in the cafeteria?
You'll be using this type of.
Rick can
this is
help you.
for-
Okay.
We have one, we have one.
I'm just thinking that,
Yes.
well, I'm thinking of Eureka High School's cafeteria and the sound, and just be able to pass a microphone around to enable a little more communication.
Now, am I off base here, or am I just, did I get a little too picky and get crazy, or is there a consensus to what I'm, no shaking heads, no shaking heads this way.
So if you say workshop, you're saying public or welcome?
It's always welcome.
Any meeting.
So we have it unless it's closed session.
Okay, when I think workshop, even though you're saying that, I don't really feel that. I think forum. If I heard the word forum, then I think, oh, that's an open meeting for what Wendy's describing.
And
Whereas workshop to me feels
Like what she described earlier, you're working
what I
as,
said,
yeah.
which is, it's the board working together to tackle these items.
And I've been using the term
And there's
wrong all
always
this
an
time.
opportunity for public input. And
When
I
we-
believe it needs to start with a workshop.
I do too.
And I would,
And then we,
yeah, and to
And
me,
then you go out
there's
to
a
the
very,
schools
there's,
with a forum,
yeah.
with your forum, use
Well,
your forum at
In the
school.
town hall meeting or community meetings, I've certainly been involved in those, especially when we were looking at school closures. And typically, it's facilitated more by staff, and there's usually one or two board members present, and it's very open. And it can be sitting around at tables, it's getting out the charts, and you start writing down what are the concerns, what
And
are
the
the
difference being
strengths.
two board members.
Correct, and so then,
I think
all five can go. As
Right, right,
long
right.
as you don't say anything.
and you're not doing the meeting, we're doing the meeting. And so, you know, I have been in this district as long as I've been. We did that, we've done that very well, and we've done it at, I think, almost every site that I can think of. We've had those kind of town hall meetings, particularly, you know, and I'm going back to school closures, because I can remember some of the Jefferson town hall meetings were very heated, but yet it was very participatory, where you know, we were, I think, able to get to the type of atmosphere and dialogue that you're wanting, and we're all wanting in terms of community exchange.
I think you two are
Yeah, I think
worried
we're
that there's gonna be 200 people there. It's gonna be a madhouse. But I'll be surprised if 30 people show up. So it'll be informal, and everybody will have a chance to speak.
But then I think the next step would be those community town hall meetings, and then bring back that, synthesize it and bring it back to the board.
I'm satisfied. I feel like the horse is dead and whipped thoroughly.
Yes, we did.
Shall we kick it too?
I've been under the table. Thank you.
We're good with the agenda, except for, we're gonna call it
A facility workshop.
Yeah, and we're gonna move 2 to 1, and we're gonna flip 1 and 2.
And we're gonna flip 2 and 1, and those are the only changes on this agenda, is that correct? Okay. And now we will move to the superintendent search process, M22. And I'm going to first turn it over to Leanne. She has a few things she'd like to
So actually, why Mickey's passing out the, reminding us what our district vision and goals are, you know, I want to speak on this topic. I think it's kind of an interesting situation, you know, maybe for myself being interim, but having been assistant superintendent for HR, my philosophy is and continues to be is that we want what's best for kids. That's what we're all about. And in my personal and professional opinion, the best thing that we can do for kids is facilitate a very rigorous, since that's kind of the word that we're using, superintendent search. And so, I want to be clear to the board that I'm in full support of moving forward with a superintendent search. That's just been, like I said, my professional position as as part of the responsibility of HR, because that's what our kids deserve. And I think that they deserve that whoever the applicants and candidates end up being, a very rigorous process, thoroughly reviewed with community input on what the desired qualities and qualifications of the next superintendent for this district are, including staff. My recommendation to the board would be to, as you're looking at, because we've done superintendent searches before, I would certainly recommend that we relook at the options that we have had available previously. I have my own personal opinion about which recommendation I would make. And, if you look at it, you've got the CSBA option, the Leadership Associate options, and HCOE as options. Those are certainly entities that we've looked to and are looked at to help with superintendent searches. There's pros and cons with all of them. Again, more under my hat as Assistant Superintendent of HR, to me, I felt that the Leadership Associates has been a very highly recommended professional administrative agency that really does an incredibly thorough job. They're known throughout the state. When I'm looking at positions coming up in our professional magazine, those are the ones that I kind of am drawn to because I know they're known throughout the state. They've got excellent networking. They've got the staff to do the right job. I certainly would encourage the board to have the discussion and conversation about really using, again, because my goal would be to have the best person in this position for our kids. And I felt I needed to at least share with the board what my personal beliefs are in terms of who might help best with the board have that outcome for our students. With that, I would feel like I've talked enough.
Okay.
Get off my soapbox now.
So, we have I know every board member read this document from start to finish, but this is the CSBA Superintendent Selection and Employment Manual, and there is a lot of good stuff in it. And if nothing else, the very first page 7, where it has an executive summary of the steps. That alone will take you through that timeline. So from this point forward, and then what was the other one that the desired, the key elements. The board has to make a decision about community involvement. We have to make an assessment of the desired characteristics of the new superintendent, advertising for the position, recruitment, screening, background checks, interviewing, board deliberations, and then contract negotiations. So right now, we are in that point where public input needs to happen in December, prior to Christmas break, so that come January and February, whoever we have out doing recruiting or not recruiting. I will mention that Leadership Associates recruits. CSBA does some recruitment. They do recruitment. HCOE, Humboldt County Office of Education, does not do any recruiting. They just post. They just post it. The other thing I will mention, because I had talked with Nikki, and fortunately she kept a nice file from the last time, was how much work Sheldon did in making this. You know, a lot of this happened, and we don't have a Sheldon any longer. So how those tasks will, what staff those tasks will fall into, I'm not quite sure.
But we can use this brochure.
Didn't we hire Leadership Association last?
We hired Leadership Associates.
And in addition, Sheldon did an awful lot of work?
Yes, he did the brochure and.
No.
No, he didn't do
Leadership
the brochure,
Associates
that's
did
right,
that.
they did.
What Sheldon did was the public, particularly the public input,
Right.
where it was 2.5 days, where all these groups from the community had, and there was a big schedule. Sheldon just helped oversee that. The two gentlemen from Leadership Associates came in and interviewed all those people, and put together the document that looks like this, which was all of the input from members of the community and from employees, and what characteristics they were looking at for the superintendent, and the state of the district at the time.
You've spoken of CSBA a number of times and speak very highly of it. And do you have any experience with their search approach?
You know, it's been 5 years. Before, what we did is we had a request for a proposal, an RFP, I think it was, and we had CSBA come up and present to us what they would do. Then we had Leadership Associates present to us. And I can't remember if we had Humboldt County Office that present, but we had a special meeting, and they came up and they each presented, and then we discussed it and we chose Leadership Associates. Before we actually chose them though, I called, they have references, and so I called all those references and talked with folks in the different districts about the different ones. I received more positive comments regarding Leadership Associates, and that it was, at that time, primarily, they got the job done with professional and minimum of fuss.
I look at what the results were, and I wasn't that impressed with Leadership Associates. They really only came up with 5 names after all that, and one of the 5 didn't even come, so we were left with 4, and of those 4, 1 clearly wasn't ready. So we ended up with only 3 qualified candidates.
And these prices on here come from 2006 numbers?
But we had more, there were more than 5. We got a whole booklet.
There was more than 5, but
That-
those 5 were, the others didn't pass the paper screen.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but we did have all the others that they sent to us to look at and to read, and we had a book. I still have it.
And we could have chosen,
And we could have picked any of those and had them interviewed by them.
But they were even weaker candidates than
Well,
the 5.
but John, that may have been all that was out there, you know. They're not 100,000 people wanting to be superintendents. They're very hard to come by nowadays, as are principals and a lot of leadership. It really is, you know, you think.
I don't want to interview 15.
No, I don't either.
And I've interviewed a lot within this district, and the goal is usually to get it down to 3.
Yeah.
The hardest thing is to get it down to 3 qualified people.
And I remember, Judy, you also called CSBA, not just, you made a number of calls, and you called, Molly, or somebody, and they weren't, whoever it was you talked to was not too.
Of course, I don't know what it.
But we don't know what it is now.
You know, if we wanted to do the proposals again, I can have them come do presentations again. I can get those references and make calls again and talk to district today. Because, I don't know.
I don't think we have that much time to dilly-dally
No, we
around.
don't.
I think we need to kind of move the horse.
Well, and that's why I think backward, when you look at where do we need to be by July
Right.
1, obviously, and going backwards, in my experience, is we need to really be interviewing for this position in March or April. In order for it to get the best candidates, which means then you need a minimum of 2 months in terms of flying the position, doing your initial paper screening, doing your background reference checking, doing all that work, which then brings us to December, and here we are.
Almost there.
First of November.
Yeah.
I will say, I did go talk to Gary Eagles about what the Humboldt County Office of Ed would provide. He also, and he chatted about a variety of things regarding the process. He actually mentioned that one of the benefits of, if we were comfortable with Leadership Associates, is that they know the district now. So they know who we are, and if we're comfortable with them, it's only Jim Brown, the other gentleman who was with, has retired. So it would be, I think, Nikki, you talked to him, Jim, and somebody else. Yeah. But that was one, just food for thought. There are probably other companies, I don't know, but I don't remember how we did that request for proposal. How did we put it out there? I bet Sheldon did that too. I don't think.
If it's appropriate, but I can tell you that there are oodles of superintendent search agencies. A lot of them very experienced and reputable. I don't know how costs compare. I don't know, the local isolation of being up here. Of course, most of them are located in other areas, but they do, almost all of them are statewide. And it's kind of an interesting thing when, from my perspective, looking at it as a school administrator, because you have very different pools of people that associate, that are candidates that associate with different search firms. It's, I think, tough choices. But it might not be bad to find out who some of the bigger firms are and see what they have to offer.
And how do we do that?
Here are search firms right here, California School Board Association. Did you just give this to me? Everybody's done it.
Everyone has.
Okay. So there's 10 here.
Do we need to have, we don't have time to have them all come up and give a presentation, that's for even 10.
Could 2 people get together and make phone calls?
Yes.
To all of these and come back to the next board meeting for basically a decision which way to go?
Well, do you want to hire a company that you don't know any of the people?
Do you have the prices, are the prices on that comparable to which of these?
I have they would be comparable
To the Leadership Associates, so that's the price range we're talking about for this type of service.
Yes, and you need to know that CSBA, while it says basic cost $12,000,
Yeah, but-
notice the additional cost.
Right.
They're going to be about the same.
Right about the same.
So, the problem is if it almost has to happen.
Phone.
It almost has to happen yesterday.
We can have to be, and I don't, that doesn't, and regardless of the time, if we need to do it, we need to do it. It's what we're comfortable doing because this is our search. I mean, this really is the #1 job that the board does. So, we can go through and call and see.
Well, I'm hearing you say that you felt really comfortable and thought this group, Leadership Associates, did a great job, and I'm hearing John say he wasn't impressed. I don't have any experience.
I wasn't here.
Here.
I was impressed. I was impressed.
I understand where John's coming from.
Yeah.
I think you were looking at results, just the results.
Yeah.
And out of those 3 finalists, 2 of them, I did not feel that they were a good fit for our district. They were from huge districts in the Bay area. And they were both assistants there. And I don't think they would have fit in here at all. And we only had the one candidate that was pretty good.
But there were a lot of other candidates in the booklet that they gave us that we went through, but because I remember going through them, and this one I would want, and this one and so forth and so on. And, I'm going to bite the bullet, and I'm going to move that we hire the...
There's no motion, because this is...
Oh, no motion,
discussion
okay.
only. Yeah.
All right.
So, sorry.
That's okay. But I think we need to, at our next meeting, we need to make a decision.
Well, see, and
As to-
I'm a little, because here we are, it's October, what are we, October 19th?
Our next meeting is November.
And the next, so, I'm...
We don't have a lot of time.
No?
Right. I'm thinking special meeting time is where I'm...
Well, then let's
from.
have a special
And I know
meeting.
we were trying not to have, but one of the things in the manual talks about the extra time commitment to make this happen, so...
Well, then let's have a special meeting.
So then, what do we want to happen? Because before, and then what do we want to do with the special meeting? In other words, what's the homework between now and a special meeting?
John, you weren't impressed. What would you like, what would you recommend? What is an alternative path to Leadership Associates that you see?
Well, I see CSBA right there. They do 30 to 50. I don't know if they're any better, but...
But if you look at their added additional costs,
So
you're not...
If the cost was the same, I might still want to try them instead of Leadership Associates. But I'm one vote, so it's...
Wonder if the special meeting is to have these companies come up and do a presentation. I wonder if that's what...
That's on them. There's no cost involved to the district to have them pitch their...
That's where they come up and they do a pitch. They're hoping for the job.
And I think if it would be helpful, we could look in our, that AXA professional magazine that has job announcement. You're not going to see 10 different search agencies, superintendent search agencies. You're going to see 2 or 3. So that would at least maybe potentially help you narrow it so you're not having to try to contact all 10. You could look over the course of a couple of months and say, oh, wow, there's really only 3 that I typically see. Often only 2. So those may be the ones that you want to bring up then, because those are the ones that are consistently doing superintendent searches on a
You
regular
can call
basis.
schools that just recently replaced their superintendent, find out what agency they...
Well, somebody has to find out who those schools are. See, that takes time.
Google. Google, the
That
god
takes
of
time.
Google.
I will just say that, I do remember Leadership Associates when I first met them. And they said, oh, this is going to be easy. Don't even worry about it. And we were very concerned as a board, saying, this is behind the redwood curtain. They had trouble getting doctors and their wives to come here. There's, this is different. Oh, they didn't see any problem. Well, then, I think it was about the end of January, and he was calling me, and he said, you guys were right. It was, so I know that was one part of the problem, and I think any firm is going to have that same problem. It is.
If they haven't done it before
If they
here.
have, right. Other than that, I don't.
There was a problem because our pay was so low.
Oh, yes, and that was another issue. Yeah,
Rest of the state.
Yeah, that was a problem too. Yeah. And that's the other thing we have to decide pretty quickly, so. Okay, so am I hearing that we're looking at a special meeting in which we would interview or listen to presentations from 3 or 4, maybe?
I would think a couple.
CSBA being one.
Leadership
Associates being the
maybe
other.
one other.
And I'll see. Okay, now. Two board members? I don't know, how do you want to do this?
In terms of deciding who those...
No, in terms of, well, I guess if that's all the homework that there is.
at this
So
point.
you're talking about only interviewing one additional, you know CSTA and you know the leadership?
I think Leanne's suggestion is very good, which is go to those magazines that she has and look and see who floats to the top.
Right.
Over a period of
Because I can, just off the top of my head, there's usually two that are consistently always in there in looking for
You know
superintendents.
who they are?
Not off the top of my head, I don't. Sorry.
Could you send us?
I can
Give us
get
their
that,
names?
getting you that information is really
Yes.
easy. And those could be then, what the homework for the board is to contact them and see if they come up, if that's an interest.
Well, I don't think then the board would be contacting them then.
Very short time.
Short timeline.
I know.
The board would be, you would contact them to see if they could come
Yeah.
and give a presentation.
Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
gonna have to.
Because we can't be calling and,
Right, right.
Nikki's going, yeah, I guess it's me. Okay, that's where we're at.
Right.
And then we'll figure out dates.
Mhm.
'Cause- Okay.
Are we going to do this by email to decide a date to get a,
Nikki will, yeah.
okay,
So-
because it needs to be a very short timeline, that's what I'm thinking.
I'm concerned that if we don't make some calls off and see those first and see, because if there's a company that says, forget it, we can't get here until,
Yeah, we're not coming
November
into.
15th, then, that's, yeah,
Okay.
so that's not where we. So if you've got scheduling concerns, then, and the special meeting will be at night. Correct? I think that's what we did last time, because we, public after 5 o'clock.
So do you want me to get those names to you or for Mickey to give to you? Does it matter?
Yeah.
Whoever comes up with them first.
Okay.
It's a race.
I'll win.
And then I'll probably just come in.
Okay, that works.
Okay, so we're off to the good start. And I believe, any other comments from the public on this particular agenda item? Thank you, Dennis. Okay. I don't believe there's any additional closed session, so I will adjourn the meeting.